The world-famous Randolph Street Market Festival returns July 25th and 26th. One of the top flea markets in the country. It's a destination for antique and art collectors, designers, and anyone who loves hearing, "So what did you get there?" There's a parking garage and the shopping is indoors and outdoors, so AC if it's hot and coverage if it rains. You'll also be able to enjoy live music, great food, and 3 market bars. You never know what you're going to find at the Randolph Street Market. Get tickets at randolphstreetmarket.com.
You ever see a town just quietly do something unthinkable? Bloomington, Indiana did. We were hiking the hills, sipping coffee, strong enough to make you think you could move them, debating the absurdity of greatness. Then one day, greatness raised its cream and crimson flag. A town known for hoops. We make history. You'll want to do the same next time you visit. Bloomington. Not what you expected. Still, absurdly great.
Today on CityCast Chicago, is Congressman Chuy Garcia tipping the scales in the 4th District race? How does the Obama Center celebrate queer history long after Pride? And was Feld worth the price tag? I've got my answer and review a little bit later. It's Wednesday, July 8th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Before we jump into the show, I got a question I want to ask both of our guests today. Lee, I want to start with you. If you had to open a restaurant in Chicago, but they only served one dish, right? You could do that one dish a bunch of different ways, but it was really just one dish. What would it be?
Okay, this sounds like a really basic answer, but I'm going to say just a really good filet. Just a really good filet mignon.
Okay.
And the reason that I'll say that is one, my dad and I went to Paulina Market like a year ago and bought their filet there, which I highly recommend. It's expensive, but it's worth it. And he made it. And it was just so simple, but the best thing ever. And then 2, there's a really famous place in Paris. It's like a chain of them, but it's good. It's called L'Entrecôte de Boeuf. And all they serve is filet and fries. So just steak frites, and
just
that's
steak frites all day. Bro, that's me. I'm like,
it's so
that's
good.
my thing. Like, if steak frites is on the menu, there's probably a 30 to 40% chance that's what I'm going to order. So I'm already pulling up on y'all. That is freelance reporter and contributor Lee John Greco. It's good to have you in the building, my friend.
Good to be here. And now I'm craving steak.
Right? Anna, over to you. Same question. You just opened a new Chicago restaurant. What's the one dish that's going to be on the menu?
Sweet potato pie. Sweet potato pie
Oh.
is going to be on the menu. So my grandmother would make the pies, right? And she would make, people would walk home with a pie. She would make so many pies that people would walk home with one, right? And so when she passed, we had a sweet potato pie cook-off at the house because somebody had to keep up the tradition.
That's so nice.
So
What a way to memorialize somebody.
Yeah.
Gee, that's so fun.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And so I went against my dad and he lost. But then that meant that I had to make the sweet potato pies from here on out.
Oh,
so every Thanksgiving, I'm making a ton of pies and I end up gifting them and sending them to people who want them.
What's the secret to your sweet potato pie? Is it like a spice or just, what is it?
We can't talk about that. You can't share that.
She said, Lee, what is you doing?
What are we talking about? I gotta have a secret sauce. What?
And that is our contributor and queer correspondent, Anna Deshawn. Welcome back to the building, my friend.
Family, it's good to be here.
Let's get into the stories, the reason y'all pulled up on us today. And of course, we got to talk about this election cycle. Lee, I want to start with you. Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia has been accused since late last year of basically playing political offensive lineman. Now, what do I mean by that? He is essentially clearing out all possible defenders so his hand-picked running back gets into the congressional end zone. Back in November, Garcia dropped out of the race for another term as 4th District congressperson, and the timing was more than questionable for onlookers because he did it right as the deadline to submit your candidacy was coming up, which cleared the path for his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, to be the only Democratic candidate on the ballot. But according to some other independents in the race, that's not the end of what they're calling shenanigans.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack here, Jacoby. And we should also say, to make things even more confusing, Patty Garcia, Chuy's chief of staff, no relation.
Not related to him.
Because I know nepotism is a time-honored tradition here in Chicago, so people might jump to that. But the latest in this is that 3 people had challenged more than 10,000 of the signatures that independent candidate Byron C. Joe Lopez, current alderman of the 25th Ward, and the other independent candidate, Myra Macia, submitted. Now, those 2 independent candidates are accusing Chuy of being behind that effort. And what happened yesterday is that Byron C. Joe Lopez's lawyer went to the Illinois Board of Elections, basically said, hey, you guys should prioritize ballot access over, these very stringent rules that you have governing what independent candidates have to do to get all of these signatures. Now, just for a little bit of context here, under the Illinois State Board of Elections' latest guidelines for ballot qualifications, candidate from an established party, so, Democrats or Republicans, have to gain signatures from at least 0.5% of the qualified primary voters from their party in the congressional district. Independents, on the other hand, have to meet this higher threshold to qualify for the ballot. They have to gain signatures from at least 5%, but no more than 8% of the total number of people who voted in the last general election within the congressional district. So, to be fair, right off the bat, the independents have to meet this weirdly high threshold, but also don't get too high there. Yeah, exactly. So during this hearing that happened yesterday, C. Joe Lopez's lawyer said, hey, these new parties and independents, they don't have the organized political structure that Democrats have. And then he went on to say that the Electoral Board is favoring Democrats and Republicans, which frustrated the hearing officer during this. There wasn't any decision that was made yesterday. We're expecting that will happen on July 14th.
When you hear from either of these independent candidates, have either said that had Chuy dropped out earlier, that they would have gone through the initial process to be on the ballot as a Democratic candidate and not have to go up against this higher independent threshold? And so do they feel that they've kind of been maybe screwed over is too strong of a word, but sort of, again, facing this opposition in multiple ways?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 independent candidates here have obviously criticized Chuy Garcia for the last couple months now, saying like, hey, you basically plan this so you could have this handpicked successor. There have even been people in Congress outside of the Illinois delegation who have chided Chuy Garcia for this. Chuy Garcia, for his own part, has cited the health of his family. His wife is dealing with health issues as a reason that he dropped out so last minute. But yeah, this has created, a bit of a cluster, shall we say, for people in the 4th Congressional District.
Can we talk a little bit more about just this process of having to get signatures and having them challenged? Because when we were talking about the mayor's race last time you were on, there's this expectation that we might be dealing with a similar set of grievances where people are going to be challenging the validity of each other's signatures, which means people are going to be pulling up with these red wagons of maybe 4 or 5 times the amount they're required to get.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jacoby, because I was reading Barack Obama's latest book recently, and he talks about this, I think, during his it was either during his first congressional candidacy or when he ran for state senate. But he actually talks about this high threshold in Illinois, and he was talking with his advisors about okay, yeah, it says that you need this many, but actually you need double that or maybe even quadruple that because there are going to be so many challenges. So I say that just to illustrate that, if you are a political veteran in Illinois, you know that this is how it goes. This is the way people play the game because people are going to challenge those signatures. We're just seeing people on both the left and the right, become more disenchanted with the establishment Democrats and Republicans.
So what are you going to be watching next?
Even Ed Mullins said towards the end of this hearing that even if the Illinois Board of Elections rehabilitated, meaning recovered some of these challenge signatures, that Cedro Lopez still wouldn't meet the threshold, apparently. That is his opinion. So, I think there are a couple options here. One, a decision comes out that says, hey, you have a bunch of signatures here where the address doesn't match or whatever the disqualifying thing is. And Cedro Lopez and Macias then won't appear on the ballot. B, maybe it could be that even if they decide, hey, some of these addresses don't match, but that's fine. We're going to give some of these people who signed it the benefit of the doubt. But maybe Cedro Lopez still doesn't meet that threshold. And then, of course, congressional election cycles are really short. So let's say Patty Garcia goes on to win because obviously 4th district, pretty blue district, like most of the ones that are in and around Chicago. So let's assume she wins. What is going to be her reputation moving forward? Is it going to be hard for her to sort of engender herself to other Illinois politicians, those in the Illinois delegation, and ultimately will we see, other Democratic challengers emerge in the future rather than independents?
During this cycle, I think a lot of questions are brought up about elder statesmen and how much are they utilizing their influence to bring their successor in. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot of criticism during the election, but then there are really no attempts to try and amend the rules or regulations around elections to make it harder for the politicians to sort of set up their chosen successor. And so I wonder if this is a story that will follow Patty if she ultimately wins, or if it's something people will just sort of chalk up to the cycle and sort of move on.
There is a little bit of a sense here where it's I just feel like it's the Chicago way, quote unquote, right? Where it's this is the way the rules are, and you got to go with it. And I will say yesterday, before the hearing even happened, I reached out to Patty Garcia's campaign. Didn't hear back from them on this.
The Taste of Chicago is back in Grant Park, y'all, and it's going down July 8th through the 12th. That's Wednesday through Sunday. You heard me. That's 5 days of celebration that bring the whole city out of towners. We all together out there celebrating the city, footworking. We know Chicago is one of the best food cities in the world. Ain't nobody gonna tell me different. But whether you craving a classic neighborhood bite or you trying to discover your next favorite spot, let me put you on that Lexington Betty Smokehouse. The Taste brings all of these flavors together that make Chicago the place it is. And here's a tip. Some of the food pop-ups only happening on certain days. So check the schedule. And if you're looking for some Taylor's Tacos, they only gonna be out there Wednesday and Thursday. All right, so write it down and maybe go ahead and plan a couple of trips. Plus, we gotta talk about the music. I have been overly impressed by the performances at the Taste in the last couple years, and this ain't no different. They got Beach Bunny, Original Coffee, Babyface gonna be out there, y'all. Julieta Venegas gonna be out there, y'all. Common gonna be out there. Of course he is. Whether you go every year, you ain't been in a while, or for some reason you on the sideline hating. Nah, man, get out there. Taste Chicago 2026. Visit tasteofchicago.us for the full lineup and more info. This one is from my wine aficionados and my nature lovers out there. Summer Wine Fest is back at Lincoln Park Zoo July 18th. Yes, one night only. You'll be able to sample a curated selection of wines, explore the zoo's botanic garden, enjoy a beautiful live string quartet, and even drop into a casual dance class. So, go on, put the lemon pepper steppers on if you got it. Plus, there will be winery representatives and an expert horticulturist, so bring your best wine and garden questions. It'll be an enchanting evening of wine, music, and lush gardens at Lincoln Park Zoo on July 18th. But there is only a few tickets left, so go ahead and reserve your spot today. Tickets and more information are available at lpzoo.org/events. We spent a lot of time, I know, over the last few weeks and month preparing people for this forthcoming election. And we've also spent a lot of time listening to people's experience at Chicago's latest museum. Of course, I'm talking about the Obama Presidential Center and Library. I got to visit it in May. Lee, you went in June. And Anna, you got to see the center recently with some of your family members. What was your experience?
It was a beautiful experience, and I was really taken aback by just how massive it all was.
Yeah.
19.3 acres is nothing to scoff at. And I really just didn't know how much there was to experience on the entire campus. People just talked about the museum, for the most part. And so having the opportunity to have 2 preview visits, one with my family, it was just such a beautiful experience, especially with my dad. I'm part of one of them Black families where you walk into the house, you don't see me, okay? You don't see my sister. On the wall, you see President Barack Obama on the wall, right there next to the key holder, okay? It's like, and so that's the family I'm growing up in. And my dad, he was just so proud to be able to come and see it, and what I was taken aback about was just how much queer history I saw throughout the museum. And every piece, I was like, wait a second, I need to document and capture all of this because they didn't have to, but they did. And so Bayard Rustin's watch that was gifted to him by Dr. King, seeing a copy of The Ladder. For all those that don't know, The Ladder was the first lesbian magazine published. And people like Lorraine Hansberry wrote in The Ladder, but she could never use her name. Like this publication was a lifeline for lesbians across the country during a time where it was illegal, right? And so as I moved through, I was just really blown away by the representation.
Yeah, you mentioned Bayard Rustin, who, if people are not familiar with that name, was one of the key organizers of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. But because of him being an openly gay man, he often was forced sort of behind the curtain. So, yeah, I'm so glad that as you move through, some of these pieces of history jumped out to you.
100%. And, I take it for granted that people don't know who Bayard Rustin is. So I appreciate you, okay? Because I take it for granted that I know who he is and I know of his impact and just how important he was to that movement. Also, a little known fact, Coretta Scott King is the one that introduced Bayard Rustin to Dr. King because Coretta always been down for the gays, okay? And if you didn't know that, find out. Okay, and so when I kept moving through, and then I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, Gilbert Baker hand dyeing the pride flag for Obama, in 2013. Who gets a hand dyed pride flag from the person that created the pride flag? I was just like, this is really beautiful. And then when I began to do my research, I was like, wait, there's a lot more queer things here than I thought. And so the Mark Bradford piece, right? The City of the Big Shoulders, that 38-foot piece, right? When you walk in before you go up to the museum, right? He's an out Black gay man thinking about home court and the mural there. A good friend, Sam Kirk, right? Out queer Southsider, right? Co-created it with Dorian Sylvain. And because we could only go to the second floor of home court because they didn't want everybody's shoes on the actual court during the previews, you couldn't see the bottom level of it. So, of course, I'm subscribed to Sam's newsletter. And so when Sam included it in a newsletter, I was like, oh, this is way more significant than I could see, from the view that we had during the preview. And so I just really appreciated that. And I wanted to do a special edition episode about it, because I wanted other people to see it as well. Not to mention my queer friends who are highlighted in there. Anthony, Mary Morton. I also saw my friends from Black Alphabet, Joshua and Adam, in the community section, because there's these interactive exhibits throughout the museum, and they're in the community section. And I'm just like, this is so Chicago. I appreciated the inclusivity, especially at a time where where I feel like we're living through the exact opposite of inclusivity. And I wanted to share that with other people. And I wanted to create a checklist. So we included a checklist too, okay? So that when you go, you can make sure that you see all the queer things that I saw.
It's like a miniature tour. It's
about.
like a little mini tour.
Yeah.
As you walk through that you put together. You did a great job on it.
And Anna, I like the way you talked about how, the inclusivity of the Obama Center is this contrast to what we see in the rest of the country, the rest of the world, because I went to the OPC on July 4th. You're supposed to have all day events, which unfortunately got cut short because of the storm. But it was really heartwarming in a really genuine way to see all the people gathered there. Because, you see the images coming from DC of these white supremacists with, Confederate flags. And then at the Obama Center, you got there, they had a DJ, he was playing the percolator, he was playing the electric slide. The crowd there was mostly Black, but it was also white people and Asian people and young people and old people. It was so nice seeing the community just come together and I don't know, just everybody have a joyous celebration and celebrate diversity, which I know sometimes we feel out of our politicians, we don't just want representation. We want something more than that. We want a policy platform, but representation does also matter. And it was nice to see that.
100%. I mean, we are living in a time of two countries. Now, some people might say we always have been living in two different countries. But in my time on this planet, it's never been this polarized.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to see such stark differences in the ways in which we live, especially when we talk about the federal level. To your point, Lee, it's just such a respite from what's happening, in the other country that people are living in, where 400 white supremacists are covering their faces walking in DC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to let that moment breathe. I don't have nothing to add to that one. One thing I want to remind people, if you were not able to get tickets for the Obama Center this summer and maybe even fall, because there were a lot of people, it has been completely sold out through November 30th. But I want you to know, today, starting at 9 a.m., more tickets are becoming available for dates September through January 3rd. And as you can imagine, they are going to go very fast. So if you're interested, you want to take your people, I will drop a link for you in the show notes. Mark your calendar, Chicago, to celebrate the Public Library Foundation's 40th anniversary. They're hosting their first ever summer soiree. It's going down August 26th at the McDonald's headquarters rooftop in West Loop. There's going to be free food, an open bar, and personalized poems. Plus, they promise other surprises in store. And maybe, just maybe, your favorite host will be in the building. The theme is 40 and bolder to celebrate the foundation's 4 decades of impact, building up Chicago's libraries into one of the city's most amazing resources. And your $100 soiree ticket goes towards funding lifelong learning programs like free homework help, teen internships, and digital skill classes for adults. The event is 21 and over, so don't miss the opportunity to connect with fellow library lovers over a themed cocktail. Buy your tickets at bit.ly/CPLF Summer Soiree. We've also got the link in the show notes. The Newberry Library will be opening its doors Saturday, July 18th for Newberry Fest. It's a free open house where visitors can see exhibitions, take a tour, join a workshop, and browse a used book sale. You'll also be able to see a 1776 copy of the Declaration of Independence, as well as an array of books, manuscripts, maps, and more. Plus, curators and librarians will be around to answer your questions about the library's collection of rare and historical materials spanning a millennia. Learn more and register at newberry.org. Before we get out of here, last Friday, I had a great opportunity to go to a celebratory dinner with some of my best friends and my partner, and we went to Feld in Westtown / Ukrainian Village. Before I get into it, are y'all familiar with Feld? It's Chicago's newest Michelin star restaurant. They received 1 star back in November 2025, and they've been open for about 2 years. Are either of you familiar with the restaurant?
Nope. Not till I got that note saying we're talking about it today.
Yeah, same. When you sent that, I was like, I did not know. Like, I feel like I should know more the Michelin star places, but
there's 21 in Chicago, and so there's not a ton of them. But the reason I thought y'all would know, because one, their name has been in the news a lot recently. Their chef and owner, Jake, won the James Beard Award as the best chef in the Midwest. Jake Potashnik, who was born and raised in Chicago, has worked in some of the best restaurants in Europe, came back with a dream to start his own restaurant. And in 2024, it was realized. As I said, they got the Michelin star. But 2 years ago when they opened, there were a lot of questions about if they would join the pantheon of great Chicago restaurants, as some people thought their opening was rushed. And so earlier this year, my friend reached out to me and was like, man, I had just watched this show, Knife Edge, on Apple TV, and it follows all of these restaurants that are aspiring to win a Michelin star. And episode 2 featured the story of Feld, and learning a little bit more about Jake's journey and Feld's journey, and getting a review from my friend Louisa Chuy over at the Tribune earlier this year that basically told me, hey, put all of those negative reviews to the side and go try it yourself. And yeah, I finally had something worth celebrating and paying that big ass price tag for it. And I want y'all to know, no hyperbole.
Was it good?
It is one of the best dining experiences that I've ever had in Chicago
Wow.
and in my life. I
Wow.
would put it up against any dining experience I've had in the country or out of the country. And at $225 a person, my hope
That's
is
a high bar.
that it's going to be worth the price. And y'all, from the moment I walked in, it was everything and more. When you walk in, you're greeted by the chefs, you're greeted by the owner. You sit down. What I really appreciated, that for only 20 people in there and what feels like a pretty small space, I didn't feel like I was bumping elbows with anybody. The way the room was set up in this sort of theater of the round, you had the prep and service area right in the middle, so you could see the chefs interacting the entire night. They were right on top of each other, but like all work together. It was like watching an orchestra. They sort of calmly settle you in by bringing you, at least that night, because the menu changes not only weekly, but sometimes daily. They're constantly picking things up from the fish market or the grocer, or have a shipment coming in from another state, whether it's cheese from Wisconsin or, lobster or fish from Maine. We started off with some tea, and the next thing I know, the first course was brought out, and y'all, there were 5 dishes with, I think, 9 different items in just the first round of food.
Wow.
And I was like, what the hell is happening right now? There was these halved cherries with like this emulsion blend in them. They didn't actually tell us what was in the blend. amazing. There was this like tuna pancake with a deal tartlet. There was this daylily that was filled with like, I think was like this salmon belly inside of this edible flour. Lee, it was amazing. They started you off with these stuffed mussels, and one of the mussels was like perfectly cut into and had a small little seasonal strawberry set right in the middle of it. I don't know, by the end of it, there was a pea flight with peas made 5 different ways. There were a couple different glasses of mezcal that was shared with us.
Oh, nice.
There was a story about a cheese farm in Wisconsin where the most award-winning cheese producer in North America. And I'm gonna be honest, my spidey senses went up because I remember those early reviews of them killing this place. And one of the things people mentioned was that there was this sort of uninspiring cheese plate brought to you. Yo, when this man came out with the cheese and started slowly cutting it and telling you the story about this maker and how he milks his cows every morning at the same time and only makes 2 types of cheeses, and the 3 we were eating because he produces them every day was August 10th, August 11th, and August 12th. And he was like, I don't want to taint your experience, but I think August 11th is the best.
There was a difference between the dates?
There was a difference in how the cheeses taste just based on one day of production.
Why did the initial review think that was underwhelming, and then what changed now?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if the story was told the same way. Even like we probably met 6 or 7 different chefs throughout the night, and they all brought their own unique style. Nobody was doing too much.
It's the experience. And so for me, when I go out to eat, I care so much about the service. If your service is awful and your food is delicious, I'm still not coming back. And so this experience sounds like it tapped every piece of your senses.
Yes, there was a collaborative sense in the room too, that like Jake is, everybody, when you get into one of these restaurants, right, Jake is a genius to the people who work there. And a lot of them came from different places in the country to work with him. But there was a collaborative spirit in the room, not only because Jake was serving water, bringing dishes over, greeting you at the door. In fact, when we left, he held the umbrella so we could get into our Uber.
Oh, my God.
It was a night that I went in, I think, with base level expectations, and they were all blown out of the water. I wish there was at least one black chef in the room. That would have been, the 10 out of 10, but a 9.9, a 9 out of 10. I just was looking up, not that I was going to go back, but just like what kind of reservations are available. For 2 people, I don't even see a reservation for the next few months. And for 4 people, you're not going to get in there until maybe August or September. So like similar to the Obama Presidential Center and Library, if you are trying to get in this summer or fall, you probably need to get on that sooner rather than later.
You could just plan a day where you do the OPC in, the year 2027, followed by dinner.
I gotta ask, have y'all been to, a Michelin star restaurant?
I have never. I have never been to a fine dining restaurant. I love good food, yes, but I'm also very picky.
Yeah.
And I've always feared going into one of these restaurants, spending the $225 a person and being like, do I want this mussel with a strawberry in the middle? I don't know. I don't know. And so I have debated if it's going to be worth my experience because I want to appreciate the food.
There was a piece of tuna that tastes like a White Castle slider in there, dog.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Is that good or is that bad?
I'm talking, at least for me, the nostalgia in that bite. And it was one of the best pieces of fish I ever tasted. I told them, I was like, why does this taste like a White Castle slider? And they said, based on where we got it and the boat we were on in Maine, that they are known for a particular beefy type of tuna, like the exact point in the water in their migration pattern. There just aren't as many predators. So they're allowed to get a little bigger or a little fattier. I will tell you, Anna, almost every other fine dining experience I've had in Chicago, I have left and within an hour ordered like Harold's or something. And this is one where I'm like, the experience has sat with me in the days since. I looked at that bill and I wasn't immediately filled with dread. I mean, again, $225 a person. We didn't do like a beverage package. The drinks we got ended up pushing it up a little bit. They didn't expect extra tip on top. The service and gratuity was factored into the final bill. And so, it was a big one, but I think all four of us, over the last few days have been like, that was beyond worth it. So I'd love if anyone who is listening has a similar or a different experience, feel free to reach out to us, 773-780-0246. If there is another restaurant, fine dining or otherwise that you want to put me on, same number. And I want your name, your neighborhood, and your recommendation. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest today, Lee John Greco. I appreciate you making time.
Appreciate you, Jacoby.
Anna Deshawn, thank you for stopping back on us.
Yo, it's always good to be here.
And everybody else, make sure you head over to our website, chicago.citycast.fm. Subscribe to our daily newsletter and check out our events calendar. We can't get out of here without some good news. The Harper Court Music Series is back this Thursday, 6 to 9 o'clock. They're going to have Rich Medina and Left Tones in the building. You don't want to miss it. I'm going to drop a link for you in the show notes. As always, we appreciate you for listening and reading. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.